stranger.
Hi, I'm Rob Whiten from the Innsmouth Book Club. Join me and my fellow guide John Chadwick as we take you on a fortnightly tour of Innsmouth. We visit places such as the Picture House, the Library and Innsmouth Museum to discuss all aspects of weird fiction, whether it be book, film, music, TV or art. As well as that, we stop over at the Gilman House to have a chat with a resident guest. That includes authors, artists, musicians, in fact Lovecraftian creatives of all types. You can find our free shows on Patreon, and there you can also sign up as a patron, which brings you bonus content, plus a monthly PDF copy of Innsmouth News, which features articles, author spotlights, all the latest news and reviews, and more. You can find us at patreon.com/InnsmouthBC. We hope to see you soon, because remember, Innsmouth isn't just a place, it's a state of mind.
Hey everyone, it's me, DB. Just reminding you, we have t-shirts in the shop. Just go to pgttcm.com. Check out all our cool t-shirts and stickers. Heck, we even got some shelf curtains in there. Keep clean, look cool, have cool stickers to put on stuff. Join us on Patreon and get a free sticker. Or don't. It's up to you.
You're listening to KZOM, Oleander Public Radio. Greetings, listeners. It is I, TV Spitzer and Farmer Dave, here once again to talk to you about the Cthulhu mythos, its books, its monsters, its unfortunate human casualties, its timeline in general, and even its tangential bits, like the dreamlands or things of a weird nature that are Lovecraftian leaning. Once more we head into those dark woods, further feeling those malevolent forces upon us. Once again we walk down the lightless stone staircase in the middle of nowhere. You're listening to KZOM. Hey everyone, it's me, DB Spitzer. And to my virtual right, Farmer Dave, David Heath. How the heck are you doing this week?
I am well/tired.
Yeah, from what I understand, you have 14 baby goats in your living room?
And counting.
That's crazy. Yeah, we'll just stop the show if you need to deliver any baby goats or anything like that.
We say that, but about 10 days ago, we did have to stop one of the Cyberpunk games because one of the mamas was in about ready to deliver.
Oh, that's crazy.
So.
That's crazy, but understandable. Yeah, I think live animal birth trumps RPGs in necessity if you live on a dairy farm.
although one of them, I swear, I got all the chores done. I went out and checked the waters, came back in, and someone else went in to check something else on the barn. And within 10 minutes, right next to one of the mamas was this little baby goat. Just, I'm here.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, in town, things are pretty normal. Just everyone's just kind of getting ready for, I don't know, April 1st happened, nothing crazy. It's just springtime, and it's people are planting gardens, people are ordering plants, people are putting up all their scarecrows, and not quite scarecrows, but getting ready to put up their scarecrows so that we can have that big huge scarecrow thing that we have every year. It slowly builds. First it's just a little bit here, and then by September
in Oleander we got to make our scarecrows a little bit bigger because we have so many ravens.
Yeah,
Yeah. Everyone else is having problems with COVID. We were having problems with anyway, never mind. I was trying to remember what the Latin name for crows and ravens is. A Corvus family? I can't remember.
I think you are correct.
I was gonna make that joke, but then I stumbled across it and then fell flat on my face.
How often we should tell that joke?
How often?
Nevermore.
I hear it murders, though, at live shows.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, we're going to be talking about Gugs and GOL-GOROTH. Not the band, not the fictional grocery store in Metalocalypse, but the Lovecraftian Marvel deity GOL-GOROTH.
And not all the. Did you know that there are 7 different Gugs mentioned in Wikipedia?
Whoa, that's crazy.
Including it's different languages stuff.
Uh-huh.
And there are 10 pages of Gug-related things in the Urban Dictionary that have nothing to do with Lovecraftian Gugs.
Interesting. Any of them that you can mention on air?
I have to remember, one was no, I can't mention that one.
Okay.
No, I don't think. Are we on the air in Minnesota?
Yeah.
We can't mention that.
No, Lutherans are free.
Not legally. There's one.
Okay.
Is and I guess I'd heard that, Gug is slang for you drinking, you gug something down.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it sounds like cyberpunk slang for drinking something fast.
Yeah, so that one. So it's also apparently the hip kids, which I am not.
Uh-huh.
Internet slang, Gug is like a greeting.
Okay.
And there is an amino acid, GUG, with all capitals. It's a type of amino acid.
Uh-huh.
And, the Times, Good University Guide. It's an English newspaper, the Times.
Uh-huh.
They have the Good University Guide, GUG, which is, kind of like our top 10 universities list here.
Gotcha.
And no, we can't mention that one. Well, I guess we could, but okay, yeah. So unless you're in Minnesota, do not. You can go ahead and just go Gug in the Urban Dictionary. But if you are in the state of Minnesota, you may violate laws reading the Urban Dictionary.
Correct. So I think we're going to be talking about GOL-GOROTH in this section then.
Yes, we are.
So one thing I have to say, one of the first things I ever saw of GOL-GOROTH that made me go, I need to look more into this frog being, is the illustration in I think it's the Monstrous Maelstrom, from 6th edition, 5th edition? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the big monster book that has all the photoshopped folk art pictures and,
Yeah, I think that's 6th.
Okay.
Yes, and it is by one of my favorite writers of all time, Robert E. Howard.
Yeah.
So Howard was a little bit different than Lovecraft.
Yeah.
In the fact that he could read economic trends. And part of the fact is, I really think that he was probably ADH. They recognized that in the 20s and the 30s, but he was all over. So he's going to write like Conan, which is known. He's going to write historical fantasy.
Yeah.
Solomon Kane. He's going to write boxing stories. He's going to write comic cowboy stories.
Yeah.
So he really only writes Lovecraftian circles for a couple of years, around 1931, 1932.
Yeah.
And a lot of his more influence is really, I think, on the writers. And it's, around, is that he kept, even though he was no longer actively writing cosmic horror, he was still corresponding with Lovecraft and Clark Ashton Smith, and encouraging him and spitballing ideas. But his Lovecraft or cosmic horror fiction is only a small percentage of what he wrote.
Yeah, that's very true.
But that doesn't necessarily prevent later generations try to shoehorn some of this stuff in.
Yeah, no. There's definitely things that other people have tried to shoehorn in with his stuff and then make it more mythosy. There's definitely I feel like there's some stories that Howard wrote that were mythosy, and other ones that were just supposed to feel like spooky mystery, or like some Conan stories that have it's a mystery bigger than what you're thinking it is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a Lovecraftian being.
And definitely, the thing on the roof is Lovecraftian. The Black Stone is Lovecraftian.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And those were the times where he was corresponding with Love. But, I've even seen people shoehorning things like Pigeons from Hell, which is much a folk story.
Sure, yeah.
But, in ways, I kind of headcanon it into a Lovecraft story.
Okay, all right.
Or a cosmic horror story,
sure.
Not Lovecraft.
Okay.
So do you know what the name of the first story that GOL-GOROTH appeared in?
No, I don't.
The Gods of Baal Sagoth.
Oh.
Which is, so this guy fights with Vikings. And so he gets shipwrecked and then he meets the Saxon who becomes like his enemy, but it then becomes kind of his friend that they're shipwrecked.
Yeah.
Kind of like, did you see
Enemy Mine?
Congo Skull Island?
Oh, no.
Well, there's a slight part of it where there's a World War II fighter pilot and a Japanese fighter pilot that are both shot down, and they end up having to be friends together and work together as a subplot to fight all these giant monsters there.
Gotcha.
So then of course they meet a girl who is of course blonde and hot because Robert E. Howard.
Yeah.
And then she dies.
Okay.
Because Robert E. Howard.
Yeah.
And so that leaves basically the two heroes have to escape the island on a boat after fighting monsters.
Okay.
But the story, the girl Brunhild kind of becomes their queen, and it kind of reminds me a little bit, maybe it was a little bit of magic, and people say that of Kipling's The Man Who Would Be King.
Yeah. Okay.
Where they sort of take control because they're claiming supernatural powers.
Yeah.
And in this particular story, it's a statue of GOL-GOROTH. So there's not really, it's kind of implied he's fake.
Okay.
But it doesn't come out and say, hey, yeah, guess what? It's an outer god. It's later people, especially Leng Carter, that put him in with the actual deities.
Okay. And I'm sure it just kind of got swept up in Sandy Peterson's need for deities in a role-playing game.
Peterson uses, I think, without the Gull, but I think Goroth is in Doom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we know, obviously, I mean, anyone else could come up with that randomly, but not Sandy Peterson.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that I really loved GOL-GOROTH was the Marvel writers in the 70s.
Oh, cool.
So they put them a lot in Conan.
Okay.
So here's sort of this thing and this sort of connection. You know that Marvel owns Conan again.
Oh, cool.
It should be better. But yeah, so the last 2 or 3 years, Marvel have been reprinting Conan.
Okay.
Some of them were reprint. They did a reprint of the original Tower of the Elephant, which is one of my favorite Conan stories.
Yeah.
But so Conan has part of the current 616 universe. So
yeah.
that's for those of you who don't know, that's the primary universe in Marvel.
Yeah.
So, in fact, enough that he was part of the Savage Avengers.
Yeah.
And to be honest, what I've read so far, I've not really been impressed. I'd like some of their Conan and Hyperborea stories, but not the Conan and the Modern. I just, might as well just use Thor.
Yeah, yeah, or Hercules, which is a Marvel character.
But because he's now full-fledged current, and again, I think I know there's been a change recently on the trademark ownership, so I don't know if they're going to keep going after this, but because he is now full 616, all these other Lovecraft Howard creations that appear in their stories are also part of the 616.
Okay.
So GOL-GOROTH GOL-GOROTH has its own little part in the official 616 webpage.
Interesting. Very interesting. The thing that I think it's sad that it's like Conan is still not in the public domain, but if Conan's part of Marvel, that might mean that we might get a Conan movie. Even if it's a Disney Conan movie, it's still something.
and well, the truth is, Disney wants something, they'll buy it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
absolutely. So Disney does not own the trademark on Conan.
Oh, but does Marvel?
No, it's a new company. It's a game company, actually.
Is it that Swedish company?
No, the Swedes sold it to somebody.
Oh, thank God.
About 3 months ago, and I will look up, see who has it now.
Okay.
But, so Marvel leases, or however, the rights to do Conan comics. Now, with this new company taking over, and so you're right, Conan stories, most of them, not all, but most of them are public domain.
Yeah.
So you can write. Notice, I am a goat farmer. I am not a lawyer. This is not to be considered legal advice. So you could sit down and say, we could copy a book, put a cover on it, and sell, the Conan stories.
Yeah.
Lots of people do. What Conan is trademarked.
Yeah.
Just like Batman and Superman. So what we cannot do is write new stuff without permission.
Gotcha.
So even though the stories are public domain, the character is trademarked. And trademarks never run out.
Yeah, yeah.
They can be given up, which nobody's going to give up a property, though.
No.
So that was a tangent for the day.
Yeah. So how's GOL-GOROTH used in Conan? What is GOL-GOROTH's description in Conan?
So and again, in the comic books, we get him sort of, and I'm not sure he actually appears in the actual stories, but he comes up pretty much. I think he's actually more mentioned in passing than actually seen. But the same sort of thing that you expect with Robert E. Howard, froggy tentacle like.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just as long as he's staying consistent.
But one sort of slight difference,
sure,
is that in one of the Marvels, he brings forth zombies.
Whoa!
In one of the Conan stories, and I think it was the episode "Curse of the Undead Man."
Wow!
So he's sort of seen as the deity over, at least, and this was back in the 70s, where he's seen as sort of the deity that brings forth zombies.
Wow, that's cool. I like that. Yeah, no, there could be something about the big white disc eyes that he has, or it has, that makes the undead rise.
Yeah, so I don't think he's actually drawn in those comics.
Okay,
I could be wrong, and I'm sure that Ken Hyde is writing a letter to me right now, explaining how I was wrong. But I don't think he actually appears. He's just mentioned.
Okay. GOL-GOROTH or Ken Hyde?
I believe that Ken Hyde does appear in a Conan comic.
Okay.
Conan Goes to Chicago.
Okay, all right. Cool.
But,
yeah. Yeah, no, I think GOL-GOROTH's pretty neat. I like the frog bat type. Even though I don't think GOL-GOROTH is quite like. Sounds like GOL-GOROTH's kind of like slimy and tentacly, and not quite the furry bat, sleepy toad that HYPERBOREA is.
Yes, but they they're definitely in this sort of Clark Ashton Smith-ish, family tree of the gods.
Oh yeah. Terrible toads of Clark Ashton Smith. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, could definitely be one of HYPERBOREA's cousins or uncles or aunts or whatnot. A family member. A nephew, per se.
Yes, and Lovecraft or Robert Howard, we really kind of like that.
Yeah, that stuff's. I like that stuff too. I mean, sometimes when I've been working on the show, the genealogy of the monsters of the outer gods or whatever, I've like pretended to take it a lot more seriously than it is, and be like, no, this person's related to that person and this. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I do like the family tree stuff. I like Clark Ashton Smith's family tree. I think I've mentioned this better than I like Lovecraft's family tree that he made. But there's like two family trees that have been made, and I think the one that Clark Ashton Smith made I like a little bit more.
Yes, and the Lovecraftian one was written more as a joke.
Oh yeah. I feel like Clark Ashton Smith is like, actually, I think I do it like this. Yeah. GOL-GOROTH. Whole kinds of black tentacled, squiggly toad goodness.
Yes, and it's Funko, I believe, or Funcom.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually owned by who owns the Funcom has the Conan trademark.
Okay.
And I think they're actually owned by Tencent.
Okay.
But,
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So would that mean that they own the trademark to GOL-GOROTH? I don't know.
Now, I don't know if GOL-GOROTH is. I know Conan is trademarked. I don't know if all the minors ones were ever trademarked.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're out there and you're listening and you know the answer to this, write us. Let us know. Hey, I think it'd be cool to do GOL-GOROTH as something. Okay, cool. Hey, so you've got a little thing that you wrote for us this week. What's it about, Dave?
So speaking of a Marvel / cosmic horror connection, I'm going to be talking about Elsa Bloodstone, one of my most favorite sea-level Marvel heroes.
Okay, all right.
Who basically started as this sort of Buffy the Vampire Hunter clone, the daughter of, well, I'll tell more, but daughter of a 70s, black and white comic Marvel hero, Ulysses Bloodstone. But then Warren Ellis basically gave her a complete makeover, and it changed her memories.
Oh, cool. Interesting. All right. Dave will be talking about that. And then after that, we will be talking about Gugs. And, yeah, I don't have a joke. So, yeah.
You have a joke?
I don't have a joke.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we'll see you in a bit, everyone.
Hey everyone, it's me, DB. New sponsor on the show, Glarry. Glarry offers a great price and better quality goods and services for music lovers. Are you looking for good prices, free shipping, 100% quality guarantee? Glarry's got you covered. Guitars, bass guitars, mandolins. They've got saxophones, trumpets, drums. They've got guitar cases, amplifiers, all the stuff that you need without having to break the bank. Inexpensive doesn't have to mean cheap. Check out the show notes to find more about Glarry. 20-watt amplifiers for under $50. Hard cases for your electric guitar for under $80. Guitars themselves for under $90. Come on, folks, check out the show notes. Get a Glarry.
This episode is brought to you by California Tea House. California Tea House is a family-owned tea store where you can find some of the world's best loose-leaf tea and organic herbal tea blends. Like a fine wine, there is no comparison between fine loose-leaf and common broken-leaf tea bags. So, check them out. Check them out. They have quite a bit of pretty awesome tea collections. I'm a huge fan of their white teas. They have a tea club that you can join, but, they've got green tea, black tea, white tea, oolong, that Robios, and herbal tea. They've also got teaware. So check out California Tea House in the show notes.
Hey everybody, it's me, Farmer Dave. And as most of you know, I really do live on a working farm. In addition to that, this is actual kidding time where we do have baby goats, and we're about halfway through. That and my regular job and just everything going on in the universe, it's been really hard to sort of do the interviews. Although I'm really excited because within a week we're going to have 2 major interviews I'm really excited about. But, and hopefully some more lined up. But unfortunately, they're all going to be done after this particular issue goes out. So what I'm kind of doing is just filling out some of the old style I used to do, such as way back in Dave's Corner and, Dave's Underground Goat Shenanigan, and just talk about something which may at the best be tangentially related to the mythos. A couple weeks ago, we talked about one of my favorite comic book characters, Dr. Aphra in the Star Wars, and then received a recent DM from a friend of mine who had listened to a couple weeks ago when we talked about how I'd use the comic book character from The Authority, Jenny Sparks, in an old World War II role-playing game. And in a lot of ways, my favorite characters, especially in the Marvel Universe, have been the C-listers. And I don't mean, that's not a bad thing. Until, say, 4 or 5 years ago, and the movie came out, Guardians of the Galaxy were C-listers. The Eternals, are C-listers. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been doing pretty good with some of these C-listers, getting them in the stories, such as Jimmy Woo, who is an Ant-Man, as well as WandaVision. He started out in the 50s in Marvel Comics chasing Fu Manchu. We see Monica Rambeau, who at one time in the 616 comic world basically was the leader of the Avengers. We see her as a child, but in Captain Marvel, but we see her in WandaVision as an adult, a post-blipped adult. We see a lot of great, I think, C-listers, Colin Wynn and Misty Steele, Kate Bishop, and, even my favorite Black Widow has always been Yelena. So I think the C-listers, especially the female C-listers, are really getting their justice in the Marvel media. And there's a C-lister who I think has a potential of being a really major character in the future as we get onto, phase 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ad nauseum. Elsa Bloodstone. Now, if you don't know who she is, that's fine. I'm going to explain. But you can't really explain who Elsa Bloodstone is unless you first talk about who her father, Ulysses Bloodstone, was. He was created by John Warner and Marv Wolfman in the 70s in one of the adventure titles that Marvel had so many at the time, which was Strange Tales. And this truly does reflect both Lovecraft and pulp writing that so many of the comic book writers of the 70s just loved. So the man who would become Ulysses Bloodstone is basically a blonde, blue-eyed hunter-gatherer caveman who sees a meteorite. And, his thought balloon looks, oh, look, it's a meteorite. Not a falling star, fire, flame. Oh, it's a meteorite. And what this meteorite was created by a group of elder gods, outer gods, before the creation of this formation of the universe of energy and matter. In the last parts of the last iteration of the universe of energy and matter. And it survived the Big Bang of this universe. And it's tied to some sort of blood nexus and basically had the power to bring the elder or outer gods from the old universe, which had been destroyed by entropy, into the new creation of the universe. Very Lovecraftian and very, I said pulp, because we've got this caveman who is running around, and the outer gods create this sort of being Exo that looks, depending on what version, looks very much like Cthulhu, to be able basically guide over this gem, and he kind of rebels against them and tries to do some sort of spell for Ulysses' people, and the gem explodes and they all die and go crazy except for Ulysses, who gets this blood gem forcefully rammed into his chest, and it gives him super strength and immortality, and of course he immediately kills Exo, and he becomes this periodically appearing hero that lives immortal, who fights monsters. He becomes a top monster killer, and apparently has a lot of children. And one of these children is going to be Elsa Bloodstone. And she first appears in 2001. In the Bloodstone miniseries by Dan Abnett and Andy Lansing and Michael Lopez, and which, I mean, let's face it, she was basically a Buffy the Vampire Slayer clone. And she was blonde, she wore this half shirt and yoga pants that even she calls pervy. She's guided by a creature named Adam, which, you know, we pretty much know any creature named Adam is going to be Frankenstein's monster. Where also her father died, and she's given the gem in a choker. It goes around her neck that gives her the strength and endurance and immortality. And she fights, and she teams up with Dracula and fights Nosferatu and a genie, and, you know, pretty much what you would expect. And when it came out, I mean, I was aware of it, but it really didn't catch my eye. Because why have a Buffy the Vampire clone when, you know, there was Buffy the Vampire at the time? You know, you had Dark Horse making comics. So it wasn't bad, but, you know, it wasn't really anything that really caught my attention. Now, like I said, she had her own blog. She was very jokey and quirky and snarky and sexy, but downplayed it. She was basically, then other than a one-shot where she did a blog about the monsters of the Marvel Universe, she sort of disappears for 5 years. And then she comes back in 2006 in Warren Ellis's brilliant masterpiece, Next Wave. I understand that, you know, that Warren Ellis can be kind of a touchy subject now, but despite what the person may or may not have done, and I really don't know full details on this, his art's amazing. And he really reconstructed superheroes by taking these CD listers, including Pulsar, you know, Rambeau, Adam Slack, Robot Man, which first appeared in 2001 comics, so it's basically a comic on the universe of 2001 done by Marvel, and Tabitha Smith, Boom Boom, and basically redid them. And in his reimagining of Elsa, she went from an American who had lived in England to very, very English. She had been given red hair. Instead of her father leaving when she was 2 years old, she was trained and nearly tortured by her father to fight monsters. And this was originally going to be a separate universe. In fact, Warren Ellis wanted to basically make Dirk Anger this crazy psycho, suicidal leader of the hate organization. He wanted originally to be Nick Fury, but couldn't. Which turns out because they can then, people, later writers, so loved these versions of characters, they started sneaking them into Earth 616, reestablishing Monica Rambeau in her version, bringing back Adam Slack. So as other authors sort of kind of snuck Next Wave in, it became part of canon. And to sort of explain away the difference, her memory was, and the rest of the team's memory were altered by this evil organization pretending to be, you know, the good guys, hate. And so she now becomes an unreliable narrator because she doesn't know. She believes her memories, even though she knows that they might have been altered or changed. And Warren Ellis is doing that. He's poking fun at comic book characters, C-listers, comic book teams, but in doing so, he creates a much more interesting character than she was originally. She gets her signature shotguns or Remington lever-action rifles or the shovel, which she's known for hitting monsters with. And she becomes very English and sort of this dark history. And she becomes that more and more is brought up in writers later on. In fact, she's occasionally re-teamed up with Tabitha Smith or Boom Boom. They aren't on the same team. They don't pal around, but they catch up, and she's kind of Tabitha's kind of Elsa's confidant, person that she can sort of be herself with, even though Elsa and Tabitha both know themselves that the two that became friends are based on lies and on mind control. And there's this scene, where, Elsa says, sometimes I just wish I could be evil, and I'd take the Mona Lisa and I'd make it into a cape, and I'd make Johnny Depp my concubine, and Tabitha gets that. She gets this person that Elsa has been made into. And writers love this character, and they've snuck her in this form, not the original form, but the red-headed Warren Ellis form in books in the last decade or so. Now, there's one sort of kind of interesting exception, and it's kind of like this own universe in its own, and that is Jon Favreau's Iron Man Viva Las Vegas. Jon Favreau, of course, plays Happy. He directed it. So to tie on, or directed the original Iron Man movie. So they did a tie-in comic that's kind of in its own universe, where Iron Man is the worst personality parts of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, where he goes into Las Vegas or isn't calmed down by Pepper Potts, where he meets this blonde or very aristocratic Elsa Bloodstone, and they're kind of responsible for bringing Fin Fam Doom into Las Vegas. And in this version, even though it's supposed to be a different dimension, she's kind of take Lara Croft met a Bond girl. Steve Rogers even comments about her in Siege, where he says she's untrained and undisciplined, but has all this potential, and that how he hopes that she can keep her heart in this very dark, dangerous world that she lives in. And you can't be a Marvel female hero on the rise if you haven't gotten some sort of mentoring from Wolverine. So whether it be Jubilee or Kamala Khan, you just have to. And so she does team up a little bit with Wolverine, who had an experience or past runs in with her father. Most recently, or one of the most recent, is that she's teamed up and was romantically paired up with was Deadpool. When he became the king of the monsters, she got possessed or something, so it kind of I've ordered that, but I haven't read The King of the Monsters yet, but I'm really excited. And what I see, they've kind of refined her more, made her a little bit more dark, more brooding. She was also in The Fearless Defenders, which was led by Misty Knight, but also had Valkyrie. It was basically a female team, and she was the monster hunter, but she was also sort of the detective, kind of if you took Lara Croft and Sherlock Holmes, which was, I think, another sort of interesting aspect of her character. When Doctor Strange died, comic book air quotes, basically once again back in Las Vegas, she was recruited to fight the demons that rose through there, and including had to fight a possessed falcon. There's a lot of other stories that she's just working in. They've got her own novel coming out, several different versions her in different universes, as well as the video games. She's a playable character in many of the video games. So I think we're going to see a lot more of Elsa Bloodstone. Especially, like I said, Marvel has done this great work with sea levels, with characters that people maybe not as familiar with. It gives them more play. And if they do, and there was some talk about before, Marvel all rolled up into Disney of making a series for her. I don't know who has the rights or it's been derailed. But as we keep going on, I think she'd be a great character to bring up, especially as we head towards the more supernatural aspects of the Marvel Universe. And as we get Blade and Doctor Strange and more magic-based adventures and stories, I think that she'd make a great character because even though she might have super strength and immortality, she's also very relatable. And her style of fighting and getting in there and just bare knuckle brawling, just very, very appropriate for a cinematic series. So as we continue, I hope that we can see much more of Elsa Bloodstone.
This episode is brought to you by Donner. Check out the show notes to find a good deal at Donner. Like the sound of this? This is the Donner Island Delay, and the really cool Donner LP that I've shown off on Instagram. Check it out. They've got some really good summer deals, and check out their snap deals as well. Use the link in the show notes to help support the show. Get yourself some cool musical instruments, maybe some patch cords. Cool.
Thank you once again for listening to People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. You can help show your support by going to the show notes and following any of the links that'll tell you how to support the show and how to support our guests. And thank you to all of our guests who you can find in the show notes. Rate, review, subscribe, and remember, patrons get priority access to asking us questions, suggesting topics, even, submitting stuff. Actually, you don't have to be a patron to submit anything. That's how Dave got on the show, and that's how you can get on the show too. It's the People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Thank you for listening. Back to the show.
Gugs are a monster that are built around armor class.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to make a Gug, and I've seen versions from running AC 15 to 30.
Oh, wow.
I don't know who's going to break a armor class 30.
Yeah.
But, and then the hit points sort of follow. So,
okay.
So Gugs are they're tanks.
Yeah.
They're bricks,
Yeah.
And that's sort of the idea is that, this is your bruiser.
Yeah, yeah.
And they live in a city, but it's interesting, in Koth, we don't know if they built the city.
Uh-huh.
They're obviously intelligent, but we don't know, did they build Koth, or was it built by their captors?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and definitely, Koth basically especially if maybe Gugs lived a long, long time ago, Koth makes itself perfect for a dungeon.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, and I've only played a little bit of Pathfinder, but I guess the Pathfinder version of the Underdark, it is a Gug, it's sort of full of Gugs.
Gotcha. Okay.
And now to make the Gugs a little bit more than, say, bugbears, they're given some, with bugbears with 4 arms.
Yeah.
They're given some interesting feats, and I think that's one thing I thought. One feat is on one of the versions is if you bring a Gug to half hit points, they frenzy. They all of a sudden their muscles just start freaking out.
Okay.
And they've got these big old 4 giant lobster claws.
Sure, yeah.
So anyone that's in the combat area has to make a dex save, or they're going to get pinched.
Okay, all right.
Another feat that I saw designed for the Gugs was there's 16 to 20 feet tall, but because of their alien design, they can get through small cracks.
Oh.
So, and that form makes them as tunnelers. So you've got this, a halfling can't come through this, little on that 16-foot Gug, and then all of a sudden, this huge creature just sort of squeezes in, and now you thought it couldn't get to you, it can.
Yikes.
And that, I think, will require some willpower saves.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I like that idea of Gugs. Ooh, baby. That's something I hadn't ever thought about with Gugs. I believe I've seen that somewhere before, but yeah, that's...
ironically enough, I've seen it in real life.
Yeah.
I used to, when I lived in a harbor, we would take a cola cans, tie them to a string, throw them overboard.
Yeah.
And octopuses would come and live in them as artificial caves. And this huge octopus that's way bigger, I mean, that's because they have no bones, cartilage.
Yeah.
But they would squeeze through this little hole in a soda can.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So, I don't know, can the Gugs sort of make their body like Mr. Fantastic, and just all of a sudden their bones become really rubbery that they can squeeze through?
Yeah.
I mean, and especially that's gonna be the creep scene of the encounter.
Oh yeah.
So if you're gonna be writing, you're gonna be doing a Gug like that. This is you gotta work it out so that you. It's a cutscene. People see, you explain to it in all this detail. The Gug gets into this small place that your party was hiding, and then roll willpower.
Oh yeah. No, I like that. But I also like the idea of having it start out being like this big thing that's like just thrashing, destroying, and throwing things, and then it's like. Then it's like tearing things off of things, and then you get to a point where you're like, well, it can't get through here. This is this thick, and unless it can come through a storm drain, or unless it can do this, it's like, does anyone have anything does anyone know anything about these things? And then that's when someone rolls something high enough and goes, oh yeah, no, they can totally come through a storm drain. So. And or they fail and they don't realize that, and they have to deal with the Gug. Yeah. I mean, the other way around, they'd at least if they make some sort of check, they'd at least understand what's going to happen and how to attack it right when it starts coming out. But yeah.
The other thing is, because the Gug's head is on the top of its head, or mouth is on top of its head.
Yeah.
They put a really good thing to put on the bottom of pitfall traps.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, no, but I mean, considering the fact that Gugs are sentient, that seems kind of not great to the Gugs, but...
Yeah, but if they're trapped by some outer god or something, or by some wizard, or some, maybe not god, but warlock patron, or...
Yeah. That would make sense. I personally like using Gugs like kind of like Umber Hulks. Like if Gugs are intelligent and have like a city underground or something like that. And if you're like mining and they hear it, they're like, "Rah!" and freak out and, you know, mess up the mining camp and everything like that. And then go back and then everyone's like, oh, there's a Gug in there. What you don't know is there's like hundreds of Gugs. There's like a village of Gugs. You know, it's like the D&D adventure where you go to a mine and then you find out that down at the bottom is like something really terrible, or you have to make some sort of moral choice. Do you kill the Gug family that lives down there? Or that's been, you know, the mine has slowly been creeping into their territory, or do you just tell the mine, you can't go any further, there's Gugs? Anyway.
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
One other thing I was thinking is to make a Gug villain. Make it a warlock.
Ooh.
That way, since it's got 4 hands or 4 claws,
Yeah.
it can do Eldritch Blast from 4 different. So you're surrounded, and it can still take out 4 of your party members.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's something I just, you know, something you need to remember is that they're 16 to 20 feet tall.
That's true.
So anywhere you're going to be dealing with a Gug, I mean, unless they have that ability to, like, crawl around in places and stuff like that, it's like, I guess, like, you could have a ceiling that's 4 feet tall and everyone's kind of hunched and, you know, the Gug just kind of, like, crawls on its hands and legs. Probably pretty fast. And maybe that's one reason why they have the mouth on, like, the top of their face right there, so they can crawl on their hands and legs real fast and still be able to chomp on things.
Yeah. You know, like I said, I always kind of assume it's sort of like the trap door, a spider.
Yeah.
But they could also have a very flexible abdomen.
Yeah.
So that they basically lean down at you.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, like, you could, like, drill, like, big half-inch holes into stone and then, like, have, like, Gugs nesting in there or something like that. If they're able to, like, squeeze up into things, then have Gugs, like, squeeze out, or, like, you know, a couple of limbs squeeze out and, like, take a swipe at you kind of thing. It's like, what kind of monster is that? It's like, at first, you know, like, early on, they only have to deal with, like, maybe, like, some mouths or some arms. And then later, they have to deal with, like, whole Gugs and stuff like that. But, you know, just game design level progression kind of stuff. And, yeah, that way you can also, like, kind of design how many Gugs there are in an area at a time and whatnot. How many? What's the difficulty? How many hit dice are? What's the credit rating? That what's a Gug got going on for it?
So again, it's gonna kind of vary. But the ones that I've seen run from about 80 to about 200 hit points.
Okay, all right. So difficult if you're just your standard person, but if you're some sort of hero type and you've got access to magic, I don't imagine a Gug being an easy fight, but I don't imagine it being an impossible fight.
No. And so at least one of the versions, and the Pathfinder tends to keep this very sort of that the Gugs are banished to, but one of the versions has, when they sneak out, has it traveling with different monsters and other types that were stuff that I never heard of, but that were other homebrews.
Oh,
so they can be almost sort of maybe the the big boss.
Oh, I like that. The head honcho of a monster menagerie.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I imagine, though, that, like, a beholder who does all of their business in the Underdark... Oh, wait a minute, no, beholders are owned by D&D. So I could imagine some sort of... oh, no, that's... Okay. I imagine there's some sort of interesting underground... You know what? Yeah, we're playing D&D on D.
Just anything from the Underdark.
Yeah.
Or the other thing that sort of, it comes on from the Pathfinder origins. And this kind of comes from, I think, that Randolph Carter helped the ghouls escape. Uh-huh. But there seems to be an animosity between the ghouls and with the Gugs.
Yeah, no, but something I was thinking is in the Underdark, and I was like, oh, but that'd be Pathfinder. I'm like, oh no, let's just do it in D&D. Like a beholder who has like Gugs for bodyguards.
Okay.
Like I figured Gugs would probably make pretty decent bodyguards if you're like some sort of like Underdark underboss. They're like, you know, it's like something to guard your temple on the outside. Just it's like 16 feet tall. It's like I don't know, pretty imposing. Just even if you just have two to stand out in front of like your temple or watch your stuff or anything like that. It's just going to be something that people are going to be like, I don't know about that. Those are Gugs.
Yeah, absolutely, and enough that your people know. Your people know from Lovecraft, know enough that they've read it, but they're not really explained.
Yeah, no. And something that I always like to point out is anytime that something's furry in Lovecraftian stuff, it could be kind of like little fine tendrils, like, what is it? Not Gathanathoa, ITHAQUA? Not ITHAQUA. Rantigoth. Rantigoth is who I'm thinking of again. But yeah.
Yeah, so that it could also be, which they could bore, but it could also be like sensory, kind of like cat whiskers.
Oh, yeah. Or some sort of, I don't know, like mold, symbiotic mold. Something that's like, you know, this furriness that's on stuff. In Lovecraft, it could be some sort of like sentient parasitic mold. Anyway,
yeah, no, I think so. I think, like you said, people will recognize the term Gug maybe if they're gamers, but they won't, and maybe even know what they look like.
Yeah,
but they won't really know what to expect.
Yeah, no. I like the concept of like a Gug, you know, being like Beast from X-Men, being like you're expecting this thing to like tear off the doors and like eat you, but you know it actually can tell you about Hegelian dialectics. So, you know,
or cast healing spells.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least, you know, be like, no, I'm not going to eat you. Please stop throwing stuff at me. It's not going to hurt me. You're just going to run out of ammo and then hit me with swords. So just knock it off. This is my house. Get out.
Gugs only.
Yeah, Gugs. Gugs are... I feel like Gugs could have their own pretty significant communities in the Underdark, depending on how you're playing, or you could treat them as like wild creatures. It's like one of both. No. And I'm thinking like, oh man, Gugs would work really good in a Star Wars RPG. They seem like, you know, a space monster already.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was thinking of those. I'm trying to remember. They're like tall. They have like 4 eyes and a little proboscis, and they're white. And I'm
Talls?
Like, yes. And I was thinking,
Pals.
yeah, and I was thinking, you throw a couple extra pair of arms on them, and those could be like space Gugs. I mean, you don't know if that top of that head's going to open up or not.
or if you want to maybe take into a galaxy far, far away this sort of thing that they've been banished underground.
Oh, yeah.
You can find this planet that no one knows very much about, but the Empire just nuked the surface. And it's because they're afraid that the Gugs are going to get out.
Ooh.
And all the Gugs are underground now.
Yeah. Heck, you could even make Gugs force sensitive or something.
Yes, you
I don't
could.
know. That makes sense, actually. Like, I don't know, some planet that you don't think of as having, like, heck, I mean, there could have been a major Gug population on Alderaan that no one's talking about.
Yeah, or the capital there, which has 200 stories before you hit the ground.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, I could see some sort of terrible things living way, way, way underneath the depths of the grounds on Coruscant, or even what do you call it? Corvega? No, Corellia, Han Solo's planet. Yeah. I could definitely see, like, if you have like kids running around stealing stuff for some like white worm, Gugs. Yeah, not surprising at all. If anyone saw Solo Star Wars Solo story of Solo, yeah, Gugs. Definitely with like episode 7 that Han Solo was smuggling those like Lovecraftian horrors.
Yeah. So like, that could be, a huge abandoned ship or something.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It was like, hey, there's a huge abandoned ship. And it was smuggling something. What was it smuggling? I don't know, but... And on a large starship, you're going to have a lot of spaces that Gugs could squeeze through. Oh, yeah, man.
You can sort of do like an alien adventure.
That's what I was thinking, and I was like, how do Gugs reproduce? And I'm like, oh, you could come up with probably some awful stuff.
Yeah.
They breathe a spore.
I think that's about it for Gugs, unless we got any more.
I kind of feel like we scratched the surface, but also at the same time, it's like Gugs. You could do a lot of stuff with Gugs, as long as you stick. It's like you can't do like Gugs of Boot Hill or Gugs in Cyberpunk, unless you do it as a genetically engineered creature.
Well, the most recent version of Call of Cthulhu has down darker trails.
Yeah,
which is a cowboy setting.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that it kind of pushes, there's a whole chapter on lost societies.
Yeah.
So you could do a very good cowboy setting there. Yeah. Where, Oklahoma, where,
I was going to say, like, Carlsbad Cavern or something like that being full of Gugs, or, like, some sort of, like, lost cavern system being full of Gugs. Yeah, I can see that. But it's not like you're going to run into Gugs in, like, a cityscapes, a city system, something that takes place in, like, Chicago, 1925. The Gugs were thicker than the... Anyway, but yeah.
More Gugs than bugs?
More Gugs than bugs. Yeah, no, geez. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What if, like, some fancy mob boss is like, I've been collecting some exotic animals. I know a guy who knows a guy in China, and he got me this. I need to get rid of it. What can I do?
And in any cyberpunk setting, I mean, you can always justify biological experiments in cyberpunk
yeah, that
setting.
was my first thought.
But, you know, you could maybe the mythos isn't really in this setting, but Lovecraft's books are.
Yeah.
So some, you know, expensive corp, you know, or golden child wants a Gug designed.
Or some Ripper Doc who, you know, has like, you know, like what if a Ripper Doc like got a hold of like animals and started splicing them or some crazy stuff like that? Or
exactly.
Yeah. Or it's like, what if we took a gorilla and put 2 sets of gorilla arms on the gorilla? And then, okay, we totally take its head off. We just keep its brain. We rebuild a cyber head for it. And then just, like, fills the thing up with cyber tech. And then it starts having to deal with cyber psychosis. And then you got a bad gorilla with, oh, man, that thing would, just, like, I hope I don't have to fight anything like that ever in cyberpunk stuff. But yeah, no. I mean, Gugs, I take back what I tried to say earlier that, oh, you can't do Gugs here and you can't do Gugs there. Gugs could be everywhere. I mean, as long as you can go underground and as long as people can be like mad scientists, splicers, whatever, Chimera projects gone awry. I mean, you could even do Gugs in your superhero campaigns. I mean, just have like your Dr. Moreau type, you know, just like smash a bunch of... What's that?
Or mole men that come up from...
Ooh, yeah. I forgot. Underground stuff. With
the
like
Chuds are Gugs.
Ooh, or Chuds and Gugs are working together. Because, as we all know... Gugs, Chuds are pretty much ghouls.
Everything goes better with Chuds.
Yeah, I think Ghasts could even be considered Chuds. Heck, I mean, Gugs could be Chuds, but I don't know. I don't think they're very humanoid, unlike Ghasts and ghouls. But yeah, no. And of course, horror games... not Ghasts, but Gugs would fit in perfectly. So everyone, I think that's all of the juice we can squeeze out of these Gugs.
That's it of Gug juice.
Yeah. Yep, the Gug juice jug is full. Thank you again so much. If you would like to write to us, track us down on the internet, we are on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We've got a website, pgttcm.com, People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. You can get in contact with me and Dave there. And if you want to help support the show, you can find t-shirts there and links to all the sponsors, including Copper Cow Coffee. A little bit before the show, I drank the last of my churro, and I got to order some more. I think I'm going to get some of that rose, if they still have it, and definitely some of the salt caramel, and always got to get me some of that black coffee. Dave, I hope that everything is amazing with you and all of the goats. And we'll see you next week. Do you know what we're talking about next week, Dave?
I believe that we are talking about Hali.
Ooh.
Or Hali.
Hali. I think I've heard of that place.
And next week we should have the return of some of our guests.
Whoa, guest returns. That'll be cool. All right, everyone. We'll see you then. Have yourselves a good one, and we'll talk to you in the near future.
Bye.
Bye.